with us a little brief background of what a naturopathic doctor does and how it's different from traditional medicine or allopathic medicine?
Sure, and thanks for having me.
I'm excited you're here. Been waiting for this for a long time.
So the difference between an allopathic doctor and a naturopathic doctor, the main differences are philosophy, in that a naturopathic doctor aims to facilitate healing through natural means. So we look for things that are blocking people from being able to become healed and eliminate them from their lives. And we really focus on nutrition to help facilitate the body to do what it naturally does, and what the body was designed to do is to heal itself.
Right. So because you have a sign in your office that says, "Let food be your medicine."
Yeah, and food is what we eat, what we put into our bodies is a major part of our overall health.
I know. And because it was a few years ago that I was sick, and I sought you out because I was going to traditional doctors, and all they kept wanting to do was write me prescriptions, but the problems weren't getting fixed. And I had to educate myself, which is why we're having a series of, specific doctors come out and talk about nutrition. And with naturopathic doctors I think it's you guys get to the root of the problem. Because you can throw a pill at something, but then when a doctor gives a pill out, sometimes there's all these extra side effects, which perpetuates more medication, and nothing really ever gets fixed. So let's talk about some of the training that you went through to become a naturopathic doctor, because I know for years I went to a chiropractor when I was a kid back in Michigan, and I almost treated chiropractors like they weren't real doctors. And I know I found out that chiropractors get a lot more nutritional a lot more nutritional education and more about physiology. And I was astonished at how much extra training that they get. So tell us a little bit about some of the training that you've received.
Right. So, I mean, any profession that's going to have a doctoral degree is going to go through vigorous training. So for a naturopathic doctor, we do 4 years of undergrad, and then we do 4 years of the doctoral program, which includes the first 2 years of basic sciences, like a medical doctor would go through. And then the second years are more clinical sciences and clinical rotations.
So did you go into an ER? Did you do ER medicine?
At our school, we had a clinic on campus.
Okay.
We did clinical rounds for the second 2 years.
Because there's not very many naturopathic colleges or medical schools in the country. I know there's one in San Diego. I know there's the one in Arizona that you went to.
SCNM.
And I know there's one in, Seattle, Washington area? So those are the ones that I'm familiar with on the West Coast.
Oregon and
Oregon, that's it. It's called Bastyr or something.
And in Connecticut, and there's one in Illinois. And there's a few in Canada.
There used to be a lot more. But the naturopathic doctors, so you're talking about food, and you're talking about, I know sometimes you'll use herbs and vitamins, and there's a lot of different tests that you do that most doctors don't do, because I found out because I asked them. But what type of, what made you decide to become a naturopathic doctor?
Okay, so to make a long story short.
Well, we got time.
It was around the early 2000s whenever I was struggling with my own health problems. I had digestive problems, and I went through the whole allopathic rigmarole of, you go to the doctor and then they give you a pill to cover up the symptoms. I was on a certain medication that, didn't really have long-term studies for people being on it. And at the same time, I was a pharmacy technician, seeing a lot of our patients that we came to know very well over the years be put on more and more medications to treat side effects of other medications. And these thoughts were swimming around in my head, there's got to be a different way. And then kind of out of the blue, my wife's father handed us a book. It was called The Maker's Diet.
Oh, okay.
By Jordan Rubin.
Okay.
And we had never followed anything like that. We said, well, let's give it a try. It was the whole diet program and supplements that you take to help basically clean up your diet and help your gut to heal up. So we did it, and the first 2 weeks I felt like better than I ever felt before. And I realized that this is how you're supposed to live life, and I didn't know what a naturopath was at that time. And I looked it up online, and I was going to be a pharmacist at that time. I was going to school.
Mm-hmm.
I switched my major and decided to go to naturopathic college.
Yeah, that was, being a pharmacist, you're pretty confident you're always going to have work, but, people, they don't get better. Because I know part of the reason why naturopathic doctors and homeopathic remedies appealed to me is because I went through that with my mom. And I watched her get medicated to the point where she was on at least 50 different prescription drugs. So they'd give her this, and then they'd give her 5 other drugs to counteract this, and she never got better. In fact, she got sicker, and now I know it's because she was toxic with all the drugs. So it just made everything worse. So can you tell me 5 of the top issues that you typically see when somebody comes and visits your office?
Sure. Number one, the health problem that's true to my heart, of course, is digestive problems. So all various digestive problems, including irritable bowel syndrome, people who have chronic constipation, that is my main focus. And being a family practice, I treat many other things. So probably second would be hormone issues. Mainly in women, but I do have men patients coming in for hormone problems, thyroid conditions, and then what everybody is suffering from, fatigue, and various autoimmune conditions, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah, and those are pretty much all connected when we get down to my next set of questions.
Yeah, and one of the major therapies I do at my office, about 50% of my practice is Nutritional Iv Therapy.
Yes, yeah, we're going to talk about that because I didn't put that on the list of questions, but I did want to cover that because you had a seminar, was it last year, about vitamin C therapy and stuff like that. So, and you treat children too, right?
Correct.
Do you have patients like with ADD and the kids coming in, they're all medicated on Ritalin and all that stuff?
Yeah.
So what's the first thing you do with somebody like that?
First thing with that, we find out, is there something that's, blocking them from functioning properly? Or they have some kind of nutrition deficiencies? Is there something wrong with the gut where they're not absorbing nutrients properly? So we may run, do some nutrition panels or check for food allergies.
Right. So let's talk about the food allergy test because I know I had one done and I ended up being allergic to eggs, and I'm like, who's allergic to eggs? But once you take that stuff out of the diet, tell us a little bit about, so a patient comes to you and you have them do a food allergy test. But before that, we did what we call a food elimination diet for 3 weeks. And I went on, was it steamed vegetables and brown rice? And which was okay, but it didn't narrow down specifically for me what I was allergic to. So let's talk about the kid. Do you make the kids keep a food diary? What do you typically do?
I like doing the food allergy test first because that allows us to narrow down instead of, guessing and eliminating a lot of different foods, especially for kids, because it's harder for kids. I like to do the food allergy test first because then we could see, specifically what foods that their body is reacting to negatively.
Right.
And then we cut those foods out for a certain amount of time. Usually it's 2 months. And we keep track of their symptomology to see if they're improving. And typically kids will, within the first 2 weeks, they'll be improving.
Wow. So when you do the food allergy test, is there a lot of blowback from the kids? Like maybe, what are some of the things that you see that come up on the food allergy test? Are there any recurring things?
Well, no kid wants to give up pizza.
It's like, no more chicken nuggets, what?
Yeah, and some of the foods, many of the foods that are common that people have allergies to are the best tasting foods. So, yeah, a lot of kids have.
So are there specific things that you just keep popping up,
Yeah, so
like eggs or?
I've done hundreds of these food allergy tests on kids and adults. And across the board, the top ones are dairy,
Mm-hmm.
gluten and wheat products,
Yep.
yeast,
Yep.
and soy is high a lot.
Yeah. Like canola oil products.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That sounds like my test.
Yeah, mine too.
Because if people knew, if they understood how soy and canola was processed, you wouldn't be using it, people. So, so how much does nutrition play in the factor in disease and illness? I mean, because I know people can eat a meal and a couple hours later their stomach, because I know I used to eat certain things and I would tell my husband it felt like I ate a brick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's
Mm-hmm.
because now I know I'm allergic to the gluten and the wheat and my
Mm-hmm.
body couldn't process that. So tell us somebody's allergic to something and it can turn into something else. But what are some of the ramifications? What does something say, a wheat intolerance? What can that look like 10, 15, 20 years down the road?
Sure. So let's say we have a young man who is allergic to wheat or gluten and doesn't realize it and goes through his life having gas and bloating and diarrhea and just thinking that that's normal
Mm-hmm.
and living his life like that. And what's likely going on is he's getting damage inside of the gut,
Mm.
chronic inflammation, which could lead to larger molecules getting into the bloodstream, which normally wouldn't be able to get into there. So he starts becoming reactive to many different foods that he normally probably wouldn't be reactive to.
Mm-hmm.
But since he's got this leaky gut
Mm-hmm.
going on, he's becoming allergic to all different kind of foods.
So let me ask you this real quick. I don't want to get you off topic, but does that manifest itself like in acne and psoriasis too?
It could.
Okay. Because I know there's a lot of people that have acne and psoriasis.
A lot
And they're
of
going getting creams and antibiotics, and that's just making it worse.
a lot of digestive problems will manifest on the skin.
So 15 years down the road, inflammation, it turns into leaky gut.
Mm-hmm.
And what else?
Yeah, you could get autoimmune conditions,
Like fibromyalgia.
rheumatoid arthritis.
How about diabetes?
Crohn's.
Can you get diabetes from wheat and stuff like that? How does that affect the pancreas?
Yeah, you could if you get antibodies to the pancreas. Yeah, you could even develop type 1 diabetes.
Antibodies. Let's talk about that a little bit. How antibodies, why your body develops that, and how the process.
Oh, so your body is pretty smart
Mm-hmm.
most of the time. Sometimes it gets too efficient, and your immune system will start to recognize molecules as being bad, and it will mount an attack against those molecules.
Like an invader?
Like an invader. So
Okay.
if your body thinks that lactose is bad, you're going to make antibodies to it. And what happens is you have an immune response, and then you get inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
And then inflammation leads to tissue damage.
Okay. Because inflammation, there's a test you can do for inflammation too.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know about this test. And tell us a little bit about that test because, because a lot of times, I know for me and a lot of women, we go to the doctors and say, we're having digestive problems, we can't sleep, blah, 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 we're irritable. They pat you on the head, give you a prescription for antidepressants and send you on your way.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some things that you can actually test for, like inflammation,
Mm-hmm.
where it's measurable. It's not just something where they think it's going on in your head. Let's talk a little bit about that test.
Sure. Are you referring to the...
C-reactive protein.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, C-reactive protein is actually a pretty common test, but it shows you if you have... There's C-reactive protein and there's ESR. Those two are both inflammatory markers and show you if you have inflammation going on in your body. And typically those are high in autoimmune reactions.
Mm-hmm.
So, for someone who has rheumatoid arthritis, you may see, high CRP or high
Okay.
ESR.
Okay. So I'm going through the drive-thru and I go get, the double cheeseburger and all this other stuff. And then an hour later I have a hamburger hangover. So, and then I get really sick and I do this for years and years and years. And then I get on all this medication So they're going to put us on what? Ibuprofen, NSAIDs. What is that doing to me now?
Yeah, so here I'll give you an example of a medication that I don't like. It's a proton pump inhibitor. That's the category of drugs. These are the ones that block stomach acid by 90%.
Oh, okay.
And these drugs are over the counter now.
Mm-hmm.
So an example one would be omeprazole or Prilosec.
Okay.
So if you lower your stomach acid, what does your stomach acid do for you?
It's supposed to help you digest your food and break your food down so you can absorb it.
Stomach acid helps to kill bacteria that's in the food that you eat.
Okay.
It helps you to absorb amino acids, vitamins, and minerals.
Okay.
And it also triggers your body to release certain enzymes to help break down the food too.
Okay.
So if you're having low stomach acid, what's going to happen? You're going to get bad bacteria in the small bowel, which is usually normally a sterile environment.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have all kind of problems associated with that. You're not going to be absorbing your nutrients, so you're going to have fatigue. You're going to have maybe skin problems. Maybe your hair is going to be falling out, and not going to be absorbing minerals as well.
Yeah, all kinds of bad things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So then you got people going in and buying antacids over the counter.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had a conversation with somebody last week, and they're eating, antacids. I said, it's not because you have too much acid, it's because you don't have enough acid.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into all this.
And we see low stomach acid a lot in people who are very stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
I see it a lot in students.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we typically, 9 out of 10 patients who come in with their chief complaint of heartburn,
Mm-hmm.
it's usually food allergy related.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do they usually go along with the treatment prognosis, or do they come back or they tell you you're crazy, I'm not going to give up my coffee and my...
Most of my patients do my plans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, because they feel better.
Yeah.
Because what's typically, you see results in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, for a typical adult, we'll see it in a couple weeks to a month. My goal is always to get people feeling better within a month.
That's cool. Okay, so we're going to take a break, and if you're listening, we're going to give you some information if you want to book an appointment with Dr. Bryan and visit him at his clinic. California Naturopathic Clinic, located at 6860 Brockton Avenue, Suite 6, Riverside. For an appointment, call 951-202-2340 or book online at calnc.com. Check out their Facebook page and YouTube channel. 951-202-2340. California Naturopathic Clinic, the way healthcare should be. Yes, I'm pretty proud of myself for doing that. Like I mentioned, Dr. Bryan is my doctor, and there's a lot of stuff. When I went to him, I knew there was something wrong, and he kind of helped me get the test done and guided me in a lot of things, and I'm doing way better. So let's talk about, I wrote down here, arthritis, diabetes, allergies, intestine, digestion issues, headaches, hormone imbalance, thyroid, IV drops, and toxins in your body. Those are, ironically, the 5, because we didn't talk about this beforehand, but those were pretty much the 5 top issues that you see in your clinic. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about thyroid, because there's a test you can do. It's called TPO antibodies.
Right.
And that's an issue that I know a lot of women deal with. And we talked a little bit about antibodies. Let's go through the process on how somebody comes to you and say, I'm feeling tired, and you kind of weed things out and you narrow things down. You say, okay, we're going to do this test, and they have a problem with the thyroid antibodies. Talk a little bit about that process and what you would do.
Sure. So many of my patients have already seen, their allopathic doctor, and they may be even on some medications, maybe on levothyroxine, which isn't helping them. It's not doing the full trick for them. When they go to see their regular doctors, they typically only test TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone, which only gives you a small part of the picture.
Right.
If you want to see the whole picture, you got to do more thorough testing, and you got to spend more time with your patient to understand them.
Right.
Because symptoms, I would say, 70% of my decision making is from the patient's symptoms. I want the patient to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as testing goes, yeah, we do more thorough testing. We'll test, free T4, free T3, which are your actual thyroid hormones. And we'll test, and if I suspect that the patient has Hashimoto's or autoimmune thyroiditis, we'll go ahead and test their antibodies too to rule that out.
What's the difference between the two for somebody that doesn't know?
Sure. So the difference is, like we mentioned earlier, sometimes your immune system will attack itself.
Okay.
And so that's the Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Your body, for whatever reason, is attacking its own thyroid.
Mm.
The symptoms are similar to just if somebody just has hypothyroid or low thyroid function compared to somebody who has Hashimoto's. The symptoms are usually the same, fatigue, hair falling out, dry skin, constipation.
Yeah, because a lot of those symptoms for a wide variety of different, ailments are the same. So it's kind of hard to figure that out. So let's talk a little bit about headaches. Do you get a lot of people that come in have like headaches, and is that attributed to what?
I mean, it could be something as simple as the person is drinking too much diet soda and getting artificial sweetener headaches,
or they're drinking too many of those energy drinks.
Yeah, and getting caffeine headaches.
Yeah.
Or it could be something more complex. Maybe they have food allergy and they're getting just chronic sinus congestion, which is giving them these sinus headaches day in and day out. And they're eating, pizza every single day, and they never realize that they're allergic to cheese.
Yeah, that's kind of stinks. So sinus infections. I know I used to get a sinus infection every year. I'd walk to my doctor. They'd give me these big antibiotics. I'd take them for a little bit, and everything seemed to be okay. Go through the cycle, and this happened for about 10 years. And then I finally figured out what was causing it. So if somebody's out there having a sinus infection every year like I was, because I haven't had one in, 5 years since I changed my diet, can you go on a little bit about antibiotics and how sometimes they pass them out a little bit too liberally?
Well, for acute conditions, an antibiotic could save your life.
Right.
For chronic conditions, so for your example was, having chronic sinus congestion, there's probably some other underlying issue besides having a bacterial infection time and time again.
Right.
Maybe you're having this inflammation that's not allowing your sinuses to drain, and then bacteria make it a good home, and then you have a bacterial infection from that. But there is some underlying issue, and a lot of times it is what we're putting in our bodies, what we're eating.
Exactly. Mine ended up finding out that there was a Candida infection, and you could have that because if you're suffering with that, it doesn't really have any place to go except out. And then when you deal with the infection and because I went on probiotics and stuff, and to balance, because people don't understand, digestion is very important. If you're not, it's not what you eat necessarily, it's what you absorb. And it's like a vicious cycle, and people are getting sicker. We have fast food, and that's the other thing too, is I pretty much stopped eating out at fast food. Yeah. And I felt a lot better, because that's going to get us into our next question. Oh, I want to talk a little bit about the IV drops, which you had mentioned before.
Sure. So, about 50% of my practice is nutritional IV therapy, which is basically infusing vitamins, minerals, and amino acids directly into your bloodstream, thus bypassing your gut.
Yes. And
the advantage of this is you're getting 100% of whatever ingredients we're putting in, and your cells are becoming super saturated with these vitamins, minerals, amino acids, which gives them better access to the nutrients as compared to if you took your vitamins orally, you're only going to absorb maybe 20 or 30%, and you can't saturate the tissues, and the tissues aren't going to get access to all that. So a good example is oftentimes fibromyalgia patients are lacking magnesium, and they're not absorbing it in their gut. They may have some leaky gut issues going on where they're not absorbing it. We'll do a nutritional IV with higher dose of magnesium, and they'll feel great.
Yep. Yeah. I think it's been maybe 6 months or 8 months I started doing it, because I went to your seminar, because I had read some articles online about cancer patients getting vitamin C therapy. So I went to check it out, and for some of you out there going, IV, you know, blah, 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 it only takes about a half hour. It's just like getting an injection, and you do feel better.
My chairs are very comfortable.
And, you know, it doesn't take that long. It takes about a half hour, and then I'm out of there. And I love the extra magnesium because it makes me sleep better. So can you give people some practical things today for a healthier lifestyle? You know, what can somebody, they're like, oh, I got too much to change, blah, blah, blah. What could they do right now, or a couple of things that maybe they can start feeling better in a couple of days?
All right, so human beings are creatures of habit. So
Don't I know?
so
Oh, no.
Why are you looking at me?
so you need to develop routines. So healthy routines is good. So start with your diet. So I would say, you know, something you could do right now is the foods that I mentioned that are the foods that most people are allergic to, you know, the dairy and gluten and
Soy.
soy and yeast. Cut those out of your diet for a couple of weeks and see how you feel on that.
So I know when I got my blood test back and we went to the grocery store, and I'm looking at, you know, pretty innocuous French fries, sweet potato fries. And I looked at it and I went, oh my gosh, this has wheat in it. Because they're dredging them in flour.
Yeah.
To deep fry a lot of this stuff. In some restaurants, if you go buy eggs, if you get scrambled eggs, they actually take pancake batter to make the scrambled eggs fluffier. So unless you get the eggs poached or soft boiled, or you go in the kitchen and watch the chef crack the eggs in front of you, you could be getting gluten in a lot of other areas, and you're not even realizing it and think you're eating healthy.
Yeah, so another good thing to work into your routine is to make all your food yourself.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, I don't have time for this. You need to prioritize that. What you eat is so important. People underestimate it. Set aside the time. Work your schedule so that you can make this. So make stuff ahead of time to make it quicker to whenever you need to prepare it.
Yep. That's exactly what we do.
Because who knows what you're getting when you're eating out.
You don't, because even some nicer restaurants we've gone to for special occasions, I'd be like, oh man, one time we went out to eat and I'm allergic to paprika. And I ate something and my lips swelled up and I was like, oh, they put paprika on the French fries. Because, well, this is the thing I get when I tell people and they ask me what I do. I said, well, I started going over to organic. I said, I wasn't totally sold on it until I started learning about pesticides. And they say, oh, organic's so expensive. And I said, well, you can either spend a little bit more money on organic food, or you spend it on doctor's visit and prescription. So, you know, so talk to a little bit about the food and how they grow it. You know, the pesticides, does that have an effect on people's digestion?
Oh yeah, definitely. And pesticides are a major source of what we call xenoestrogens. These are compounds in the environment that act like estrogen in your body. And so I mentioned earlier that, you know, the second thing that I see a lot of is hormonal related issues in women. These xenoestrogens in the environment are wreaking havoc on women. And women are going to their doctors, and their doctors are not knowing what to do.
Right.
And they're putting them on, you mentioned before, they're putting them on, you know, psych meds and stuff, antidepressants, which could be making them worse. So a lot of these patients who come in with hormonal issues, you know, we address environmental causes, and we try to, I mean, you can never get 100% away from all these toxins.
Right.
But you become aware of them, and you do everything you can to eliminate as much as you can.
Right, because some of that stuff is even in the cosmetics.
Yeah, the parabens, methylparabens.
The lotions, there's tests for that too, people. Your shampoo.
And a good source is go to ewg.org.
Yes.
Environmental Working Group, and they have a lot of information on, you know, what cosmetic products are the best and the worst.
Yeah, because those are endocrine disruptors,
Oh, yeah.
and it affects your adrenals, your thyroid, everything. Okay, well, we're going to take another break, and if you've been enjoying our conversation here, we're going to give you some information on how you can find Dr. Bryan, and if you want to visit him at his clinic and possibly make an appointment. We'll be right back. Maybe not. California Naturopathic Clinic, located at 6860 Brockton Avenue, Suite 6, Riverside. For an appointment, call 951-202-2340 or book online at calnc.com. Check out their Facebook page and YouTube channel, 951-202-2340. California Naturopathic Clinic, the way healthcare should be. Okay, so the next question, were you going to mention anything more about pesticides or xenoestrogens before we go on to the next question? Okay, so I see this on the webinars and stuff and books that I read called the Standard American Diet or the SAD diet, and it's got sugar, gluten, fast food, MSG, dehydration. Let's talk a little bit about a few of these things on here. We already talked a little bit about gluten and dairy and fast food. Let's talk about sugar, MSG, and the dehydration on how that plays on somebody's body.
So, and people could get MSG headaches, by the way. But
yeah, they can.
That's another thing. You take people off MSG, and the headaches go away.
That's pretty much in everything, too, all prepared foods.
But sugar, refined sugar, dextrose, maltose, sucrose, all the oses, high fructose corn syrup.
Oh my gosh, that's in everything. It's even in the ketchup.
These are these are pro-inflammatory, meaning they cause inflammation in your body. Some of the sugars specifically the high fructose corn syrup, it overwhelms your liver, and in an effort to keep up with it, your liver starts to store away fat, and you develop fatty liver, which will damage your liver over time.
Yeah, and most people think high cholesterol is from too much fat, but it's not, is it?
Cholesterol is an important molecule. Cholesterol is what our hormones are made out of. So there's, for whatever reason, I don't know, I'm not going to mention, but there's been this huge push to have cholesterol lowered. Now, it has been implicated in possibly contributing to cardiovascular disease, but there are other risk factors that are involved in that. Cholesterol alone is healthy for you.
Doesn't your body make its own cholesterol?
Your body makes its own cholesterol.
And your brain's cholesterol too.
And yeah, and you need, it's incorporated in the cell wall. Like I mentioned, your hormones are made out of cholesterol. Women who are going through menopause and they stop making that many hormones, their cholesterol will go up because hormones are made out of cholesterol and they're not making as many hormones. You'll see a temporary rise in cholesterol. What happens with these women, the doctor quickly, puts them on a Lipitor, and that causes a whole bunch of different side effects.
Wow, yeah.
Muscle cramps and weakness, tiredness.
I know in my family we cut down the sugar and triglycerides went down. Okay, here we go.
So triglycerides are related to sugar.
Okay. So sugar and MSG dehydration. Let's talk about people when they're dehydrated. What happens?
So when you need water is medicine.
Yeah, because what people are drinking, like, a pot of coffee in the morning, and they're drinking all this fruit juice, which is sugar.
And you become dehydrated, and you could get headaches from that. You could have constipation from dehydration.
Some other things from headaches, low potassium, low magnesium, all the minerals, because
you get low minerals. And here's something interesting about low minerals is our agriculture is not infused with all the minerals that we need to have.
No.
And so it's really lacking. I mean, if you buy organic, you're going to get a little more. But as far as supplementing your diet, you need to supplement with at least some minerals.
Yes.
Yeah. If you're low on certain minerals, you may be craving more calories, and so people may be putting on weight simply because they're low in minerals. So even taking a multi-mineral could help you to lose weight.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, because there's a test you can do for that. It was, what was it called? The micro...
Yeah, it was a micronutrient profile.
Micronutrient profile, yeah. So that kind of... Because I know there's a hair mineral test that I've heard about too, but you were saying that the blood test is more accurate. So in that...
Yeah, so the blood test, it shows you what your specific cells are lacking, or what how well your cells function in the absence of these minerals.
Okay. So when you adjust people's macronutrient panel, they see improvements, I would imagine, pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, and with the micronutrient profile, you're able to, specifically, you give the patient the specific nutrients that they need instead of having a whole cupboard full of all different supplements. You can really refine their treatment protocol to the specifics.
Yeah, because a lot of the stuff, when you go to the grocery store and you're buying the organic foods, it's almost like you have to eat 5 times more just to get the same nutrition that maybe my grandparents ate because they had a garden. They were growing stuff. We have some friends that grew up in Rhodesia, but what's the country? Anyway, they lived in Long Beach. You walk out into their backyard and they had all these fruit trees and they wanted tomatoes. They just went and pulled it off the vine in their backyard. Yeah. And the food tasted so much better. Yeah. Zimbabwe, that's the country. Sorry. My brain went away. So dehydration, how much water does somebody need each day?
About half their body weight in ounces.
Half their body weight in ounces.
So, I mean, if you weigh, 120 pounds, you have 60 ounces of water a day.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. When somebody drinks a lot of coffee, doesn't that dehydrate your body?
Yeah, because caffeine is a diuretic and it makes you go pee. So you lose more water. Yeah,
because I was talking to somebody last week and I said, well, if you cut back the coffee, and they're like, oh, cut back my coffee, and then I'll be tired and fall asleep. Yeah, it's like cutting their arm off. But trying to explain that to them. But somebody comes in to your office, kind of guide us through the process of what happens. They make an appointment, and then what are some of the things that you do?
Sure. So, someone makes their first patient appointment, so they come in. The visit is an hour long for an adult. I interview them. We go through their whole health history. I do a physical exam based on why they're coming in, and we'll order specific tests at that time. Typically, it'll take the test results to come back about a week or two, and we'll schedule our follow-up visit at that time. And by that time, I'll have the results of their tests, and I'll have a plan specifically for them. And I'm very goal-oriented, so I have written on the plan, I have what are our goals, at what time frame do we expect you to feel better to achieve our goals, what my thoughts are on your health, what dietary changes I want you to make, what supplements I want you to take in order to achieve our goals. And then typically, like I said, I would like people feeling better within a month. And so we follow up a month later and see how the patient is doing. If we need to make any tweaks at that time, we do. For the most part, most of my patients start to feel better within a month.
Yeah, I don't think that people understand how much your diet affects every aspect of your life. So I know you had offered a seminar on the IV therapy. Do you do that frequently? Are you planning on doing more of those?
I think a good thing would be for people to sign up for my newsletter. We make those announcements there, and we also make them on. You could see my newsletter on the website calnc.com. At the bottom, you could sign up there, or you could check out our Facebook page, Facebook.com/calnc.
Yeah, you can make appointments online too. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you would like to talk about, because we have some time left?
Sure. Just on a side note right now, as far as the profession of naturopathic medicine in the state of California, we have certain things that we're allowed to do that are in our scope of practice. And right now there's a bill, SB 538, that we're trying to get passed. Last year we got through a few assemblies and then it got put on hold. So if people could go to California Naturopathic Doctors Association website, that's calnd.org, and become an advocate. And basically it's as simple as sending a letter to your representative, and they have the form all set up it's idiot proof. You could just go in and
My representative probably already knows me by name. I probably call him and email him so much. It's that woman calling us again.
it would really help. And what the scope expansion will do is it'll give naturopathic doctors more privileges that are based on our training. And if that happens, that'll get our foot in the door to getting insurance companies to start to cover our services, which ultimately will help the consumer. And for the most part, I mean, a lot of the consumers now are kind of going in the direction of natural health care. What better opportunity than to have your primary care doctor be a naturopathic doctor who could treat you in that manner?
Yeah, because there are some prescriptions that you can write.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, right now in our scope, we could write for hormones.
Mm-hmm.
The bill will increase our prescriptive rights to other medications, which would be a beneficial in my practice because I have a lot of patients coming in on medications who would like to get off of the medications, and in some medications you have to write them a lower dose and taper them down. So that's how I would be using.
Okay. So, something else I was going to ask you. So, when somebody comes in and they're talking to you about, naturopathic doctor, when they find you, do they already know what you do? Or they were referred to you? Or
So, yeah, a lot of the time I'm preaching to the choir.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why, one of the reasons why my success rate is so high, because people are ready to make the changes. They're coming in. Yeah, most of my patients are referral.
Mm-hmm.
Someone referred them. But then every once in a while we get a patient who is totally new to it, and I totally change their lives.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So, because you're seeing people when they're sick. And then I think the primary focus of healthcare now is the way it was set up before is you just pay your HMO and you get all these tests. And nobody was really proactive about why I'm ordering these tests, or do I need this? Is this going to help me? So, because some of the tests that you recommend, I mean, they're not cheap, but if you want to get to the root of the problem, the faster you want to get healed, you got to have all this information.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think of some other tests that we did.
Well, and speaking of information too, I mean, this is the information age, and we're in a health revolution right now. When we look back, we're going to see that this is kind of a renaissance of healthcare, and that healthcare now is more patient driven. And so people are researching on their own online. There's a lot of information out there, and they're going to their doctors, and their doctors don't want to hear it. They don't have time for it.
That was me.
Stop looking stuff up. They're telling them to don't. And when my patients come to see me, I understand that people are looking things up. The benefit is I'm spending more time with the patients too, so I'm there to answer all their questions and to clarify, some misinformation that may be online. And, I understand that people are educated about their health. And
well, hopefully.
Yeah.
Who built this machine anyway? But I was like that. I think in the past 10 years, I had been to 11 doctors.
Yeah.
Because it kept kicking the can down the road. And I would go to him. I remember I had a conversation with one doctor, and he said, "There's nothing wrong with you." I said, "Listen, I got better things to do than take time off work than come down here. I don't feel good. Something's wrong. You can't tell me that there's no test that you can do. I don't feel right." So that's when I spent a lot of time reading books and going to different doctors and spending copious amounts of time online listening to lectures, signing up for webinars, and started to learn all this stuff and preparing our food. Going to the grocery store, and people think, oh, it's really hard. It really isn't.
It's just changing your routines.
You get I bought a vegetable chopper, so I'll go get my carrots and my onions and I'll just chop it just like they do at the Chinese restaurant. They have all the stuff in the freezer, and I just make all my stuff, and it's not as hard as people think it is, and it actually tastes better, and because there's a lot more nutrients and stuff in the food, you don't eat as much.
Right.
I have this conversation with my son. He's like, "I'm starving all the time." I said, "Because you're not eating the right food." So because it was a joke in my house for a while. If it doesn't come in a box or in a wrapper, it goes in the microwave. It's not food. So we're going to play the promo clip one more time, and then we're going to maybe open the mic up and tell a couple things that maybe you did, because we got some time. Hit it, DJ. California Naturopathic Clinic, located at 6860 Brockton Avenue, Suite 6, Riverside. For an appointment, call 951-202-2340 or book online at calnc.com. Check out their Facebook page and YouTube channel. 951-202-2340. California Naturopathic Clinic, the way healthcare should be. So, I want to go back for a brief minute before I open it up to DJ Tony and talk more about the IV therapy. Mm-hmm. Because if somebody has digestive problems, mm-hmm. it's going to be even harder for them to get the full impact. And talk about glutathione a little bit.
So glutathione is our body's one of our body's most potent antioxidants mm-hmm. that we make. And most of it is made in the liver. And what it is for is to detoxify things out of your system, basically. So when do I use glutathione in IV therapy mostly is when, for cancer patients, people who are undergoing chemotherapy, mm-hmm. we'll concomitantly we'll give them a nutritional bag plus the glutathione, because whenever your body is trying to repair from the damage of chemotherapy, you're using up all your glutathione, so you'll need some extra glutathione, and these patients are recovering faster from their chemotherapy rounds when they do conventional medicine and they get the nutritional IV bags with glutathione as well. Another case where I use glutathione is for people who have heavy metals, and we're doing a heavy metal cleanse. Mm-hmm. We'll do the glutathione therapy for them too, which helps them to clear the metals faster.
So what's in the nutritional bag?
In the nutritional bag, we have B complex, so all your Bs. We have vitamin C. We have selenium, zinc, magnesium, calcium. I have a blend of micro trace minerals. Mm-hmm. And potassium.
So when they get the glutathione and the mineral bag, is their body able to restore and repair their own immune system? Do you think that's why they're able to get through or is it just the symptoms of the chemotherapy?
So what chemotherapy does is it basically halts cell division. So your cells stop dividing, mm-hmm. and a lot of them die off. A lot of your cells die off. So chemotherapy kills healthy cells and cancer cells. Mm-hmm. And when your cells die by the millions, trillions, they release toxins in the area. The body comes in and tries to clean it up. And in the process of cleaning it up, your body has to neutralize free radicals. Mm-hmm. So it uses the glutathione to neutralize those free radicals. Well, you run out of it when you have that much damage going on from the chemo. You run out of glutathione. Mm-hmm. So we give extra glutathione so those repairs could take place and you could recover faster with less side effects.
Wow. So I was watching something online the other day. It was talking about chemo brain. Mm-hmm. So when it kills the cells, is it doing that to your brain too? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, it's likely, you get these local areas of cell damage, and then, like I said, the cells release their contents because the cells burst open, they're damaged, and it's the cleanup process, and wow. It causes, the brain fog and...
So their bodies are just getting overwhelmed with all these toxins, and they can't clean it up fast enough. Wow. So, did you want to join in the conversation? DJ Tony?
What do you want me to talk about?
I want to talk about a couple things because I know we've learned a lot doing research and then the treatments that I've gotten from mm-hmm. your clinic, and I felt a lot better. And I've referred some people, and they don't want to make the changes. Uh-huh. And I talk to a lot of people, whether it's from work or just friends and stuff, and I tell them, look, everything you put in your mouth, if you eat rocks, what's going to happen? You're not going to absorb that. So, the biggest people that you can work on is your family.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I started changing my diet, guess what happened? It affects your whole family.
Mm-hmm. And
so
it's always my recommendation for the patients. You need to get your whole family on board. We're going to make a diet, give you a diet plan.
Mm-hmm.
You all have to do it so you could support each other.
Right, because I think people think it's just like plain chicken breast and steamed broccoli and you got to eat that for the rest of your life. Well, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff that you can do.
And
so
you probably, on a healthy diet, you're probably going to get more variety of food than you would just eating the standard American diet.
Oh yeah, because I think I was talking to you about learning how to cook different vegetables, because we never ate them when I was a kid, and I was watching YouTube videos how to cook certain squash, and it's like, wow, that's really interesting. I never knew you could do that with the squash. And then nuts and seeds and stuff, because they're full of minerals and nutrients, aren't they?
Yep.
So
I never ate vegetables.
I know you didn't.
Are you eating them now?
No. I get any vegetables or anything in my protein drink.
Well,
but I don't actually eat vegetables.
You blend it up in there?
No, whatever's in the mix. I buy the protein mix.
Uh-huh.
So it says it has them in there.
Uh-huh.
So.
Well, because what had happened is I was going on an egg white for the protein diet.
Uh-huh.
Well, I bought this container of egg white protein, and I broke out in this rash. Well, then I get my blood test back, and it's like, who's allergic to eggs? So I stopped buying that, and I wanted to find out. I couldn't have the soy, couldn't have anything with wheat and stuff in it. So I ended up going with pea protein. Well, there's all kinds of different pea proteins, and I knew that if it didn't taste good, he wasn't going to be on board with it.
Uh-huh.
That's okay for you, blah, blah, blah. So I did all this research, and I ended up buying a bag of protein for a friend of mine. I said, dude, your liver's jacked up. We need to get you straightened out. So he decided he didn't want to do the protocol, so I brought it home. So I tried it, and I thought, well, this is really good. He'd probably like it. So I said, here, try this. He's like a little kid. I don't want to take it. And I said, it's sweet. You could put some stevia in it, but it's got, high protein. It's got all kinds of good stuff in it.
I am the poster child of a creature of habit.
Word.
Have you tried the...
I do not like change.
Nope.
Have you tried the beef protein powder?
The hydrolyzed
No.
protein?
Yeah, the beef.
You are taking it.
I
That's
am?
that stuff. Yeah, that's collagen.
Oh, okay, then I am. But my regular protein mix, it has a berry flavor.
Uh-huh.
So
It's got vegetables and fruit and antioxidants, but it's sweet.
Uh-huh.
So we use all, because we got rid of all the dairy. Use real butter. I don't use any. I use coconut oil,
we
coconut
use
flour.
almond milk.
Sometimes when I'm feeling really energetic on the weekends, I'll download a bunch of recipes and I'll just try stuff. And I made some black bean brownies, and I have my taste testers, because I know if my family's not going to eat it, we're not going to stick to the diet. If they're not going to like it. So I would take stuff into work, and I would tell them there's no sugar, there's no wheat, no gluten, and no dairy. And they'd look at me like I just hit them upside the head with a 2x4.
Yeah, just try it.
Yeah, I said, you can make good food. And some of the recipes I had to modify because they called for dairy, or they called for eggs.
Uh-huh.
But I went to some of the vegetarian and vegan websites, and there's all kinds of recipes out there. And I was like, wow, that sounds pretty good.
You're part of the health revolution.
Right, because what we've been doing wasn't working. Because if it was working, we wouldn't need doctors. And with my mom being sick, and she died prematurely at 49, because now I believe she was on so much medication, she was just toxic. Her thyroid, her liver, everything. I mean, I can look at pictures of her now, and I can see, okay, this was wrong, and this was wrong, and this was wrong. But they were just covering the symptoms. So that was one of the things that concerned me. But I know that if we don't change what we're doing, we're not going to live for very long.
And what do we want? We want to live a long life and a healthy life and be able to do things we want to do, and even when we're older. I always tell my patients about, I was hiking up Blue Mountain over in, I think it's in Loma Linda. And I was like, there was a big group of people. There was like an event, and there's a gentleman, an older gentleman, who was like I was trying to catch up to him. And I got to talking with him. He's 81 years old.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what's your secret? He said he's eaten healthy his whole life and has never stopped moving.
Yep. Well, I mean, look at Jack LaLanne when he was, 96?
Mm-hmm.
And he was the juice guy and all this other stuff. I mean, my uncle, he quit smoking a long time ago, and he lived to be 92. And he was still working and, driving, and that was kind of scary. But, so is there anything else you want to talk about? So, because today is a monumental day. Tell us the monumental thing that happened today, dear.
A monumental thing.
Yes.
You ate some broccoli?
No.
No.
I ate my last pack of peanut butter crackers. The toast crack, they have wheat and other stuff in them, and so.
The last pack of.
The last pack.
Congratulations.
She wanted me to have a ceremony or something.
Should we have should we burn the wrappers in effigy? Because.
But no, I've changed a lot of things in my diet in the last 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
No, 3 years, maybe a little more. And one of the biggest reasons why changing those 3 years ago was I had massive kidney stones. I had a lot of them.
You kept getting them?
Pretty good. Well, no, I don't know if I kept getting
pass
them.
them?
Yeah, I was passing one.
Oof.
And come to find out, I think I had passed one years before and didn't realize that's what it was because I didn't go to the doctor. Well, this time when I was passing it, it was so bad I had her take me to the emergency or to the
urgent
care. And they did it. Oh, yeah, it's
a big one.
This size. And they looked in there and they said, oh, you got about a dozen or so in each kidney.
Did they know what kind of stones?
And I said, thanks for letting me know. And
yeah.
So, so over a 2-year period, I had 4 different procedures to get them out. The first 3 procedures were the ultrasound. And there were still some fragments and still some pretty good sized ones. So finally, the 4th procedure, they went in with the laser and did both kidneys with the laser. The reason I had the 3 procedures before, because they only do the ultrasound per kidney. They won't do them both because they don't want to take any chances of something happening and you have other complications and you don't have a kidney anymore. It doesn't function.
Yeah. Have you been symptom free since you changed your diet?
The last x-rays were still clear. Well, there's a couple little fragments that are like hiding up in what they call the meat of the kidney. And they said, we'll just have to keep an eye on it, and they could work their way out, and you could pass. They could stay there forever. Who knows? So
that's good.
We changed everything.
But all the rest of them are gone, and so. But I used to drink a lot of soda.
Yeah.
And
I don't drink any soda anymore.
A lot of cow's milk too.
Yep. That's
good.
When I was growing up as a kid, all I drank was soda and milk or Kool-Aid. I never drank just water.
Wow.
So
I remember when I was a kid, we didn't really drink Kool-Aid at my house, but I went to my friend's house, and he said, "Yeah, look, you want to make some Kool-Aid?" I said, "Sure." I never had it before. And he added the sugar to the specifications, and he's like adding all these cups.
yeah.
I'm like,
Wow.
does that all dissolve in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But it tastes great.
But then, I knew somebody whose 9-year-old kid is pre-diabetic, and it's like, wait a minute here, what's going on with this? Because you're drinking Kool-Aid, you're getting the refills on the sodas. But if you can briefly, we've got a couple minutes for our broadcast. Talk a little bit about kidney stones and formation.
Yeah. So I mean, there's different types of stones, and some are like uric acid stones, some are cholesterol. I don't know what kind of struvite.
It was some kind of calcium base. I
Yeah,
forget
so-
the exact name. It's one of the long name.
Yeah, so different stone. I mean, it could be like the pH is off in your kidneys, and, and you're more prone to forming stones. Maybe like too acidic.
Yeah, they don't know. They didn't say.
Well, I have a theory.
Well, I'm sure you do. So, but I used to eat sugar cereal. Fruit Loops, Captain Crunch, whatever, all the sugar cereals. That's what I grew up on, and ate it as an adult until a few years ago. And that's what I had for breakfast every day.
I stopped when I was 21.
And
Captain Crunch.
yeah. So now all I have for breakfast is the protein drink.
Well, when we talked about changing his diet, his concern was, I'm going to be hungry. I said, well, if you're getting the nutrients that you need, and we sat down and we figured out for his height and weight how many grams of protein he needs. It says, if you're getting the nutrients in the protein, you shouldn't be hungry.
Yeah.
But if you're hungry, let me know and we'll change some things. So the first couple days, I said, how's it going? He goes, I'm not hungry. So the headache started to go away. You know, the inflammation started to go down. And we started kind of tweaking stuff for him. And the reason why he has a lot of sinus problems and stuff. And I says, that's the one sacred cow is the peanut butter crackers. There's yeast and wheat and all that stuff. Peanut butter isn't inherently bad if you get the right stuff. And there's different kinds of crackers. I said, but that's the one sacred cow. So he's like, I don't know if I can do it. And I says, you can do it. And today was the last day.
I read ingredients on the labels a lot more now than I never used to look at them. I just buy what I wanted.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big thing too, is sugar grams and reading the ingredients. And I tell people if I can't pronounce it,
I basically look at just what are the ingredients in there, more so than looking at the amounts or the grams, whatever like you're looking for.
Well, any final thoughts, Dr. Bryan, before we finish up?
No, I'd like to thank you for having me here.
Well, I'm excited that you came out so people can understand what you do.
Yeah.
And you can help some people. Hopefully they'll contact you.
Yeah. And I love what I do. I love my job. I love going to work every day.
That's great. So if we're going to play the promo one more time, and if you like what you heard, if you like what you heard and you want to contact Dr. Bryan, you can get his information. And we will see you at Against the Flow Radio this time, if I don't see you next week. California Naturopathic Clinic, located at 6860 Brockton Avenue, Suite 6, Riverside. For an appointment, call 951-202-2340 or book online at calnc.com. Check out their Facebook page and YouTube channel. 951-202-2340. California Naturopathic Clinic, the way healthcare should be.